Okay, good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. I hope you all had a good July 4th weekend and enjoyed the extended holiday here. And now we're back at it. It is kind of in the middle of the summer here, very low volume situation, and in a short week here. So I'm not going to expect too much movement, but as usual, anything can happen in the market, and so we have to be ready for that. Let's go jump to our ultra high time frames here and just take a look at what's happened here. We did have the Sunday Globex going into the first few hours of Monday morning, and so there was some price action yesterday and Sunday that we can take a look at, see if the picture has changed at all here. So let's jump up to our quarterly chart, and quarterly chart still looking as usual. Same thing with the monthly. Both look very strong, no signs of exhaustion. Something I am noticing here on the RVI is that we're starting to kind of almost plateau here, kind of leveling off a little bit, not completely, but you can definitely see this kind of what looks like maybe almost an inflection point here, and the slope might start to change, but things still do look pretty strong. No signs of exhaustion just yet, and we have an entire month for this candle to develop and this signal to change, so we'll keep monitoring that. On our weekly here, something that has happened here is basically what this signal that we had off of the previous weekly bar is looking like it might be a false signal. So you guys know that when I do divergences, unless it is comparing one bar to the next bar, two subsequent bars, I want to actually see a defined peak when I do my analysis. And so this current peak that from our previous weekly candle that closed on July 2nd, it's looking like this is going to be a false signal. So that bearish potential indication might no longer be holding here. I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of that. And that's because we've come down, we pulled back, and we are now pushing here. And compared to that previous weekly bar, we did push just another point higher here, and you can see the RVI is pushing higher. And I said last week that if we can push higher than this 74.5 on RVI over here, and that's exactly what we're doing right now, we're not going to have a divergence situation because price itself and the indicator are both starting to slope higher now. And so right now, I don't see any clear signs of exhaustion up here. You could argue from that previous bar, but because of the way I do my divergence analysis, I now am deleting that what I consider a false signal, and I'm seeing that we don't necessarily have a clear sign of exhaustion up here. We get to our daily, really nothing on here, just been very strong push, no signs of exhaustion in the push. And currently right now on this on the candle that will close at the end of today, if the picture doesn't change, then yes, you might actually have this push to 1 point higher and the RVI pushing to lower. So we might have somewhat of a bearish case on the daily if this closes in a similar situation to what we're seeing right now. What I'd ideally like to see, so that that indication is not there, is for this to actually push and maybe close up over in this area here. So we actually have a higher high on RVI and a higher high on the price. So this is something we'll have to watch. Right now, it's too early to really call any type of strong signal here. So right now, everything looks strong on the daily. We get to our 4 hour, and this is where we have a pretty clear bearish indication off the overnight high. And so what's the actual level here? Let me go to my... So 43.48 is the overnight high. It's also the new all-time high. I do have a bearish indication here on the 4 hour. Outside of that, nothing in the local area right now. So let's see if we get any type of agreement here as we dial down. Now on the 60-minute, same exact agreement off of the overnight high up here. Got a pretty decent bearish divergence. So now we have our 4-hour and our 1-hour giving us some exhaustion up here at the new all-time high. Again, not too surprising. As we push, we are going to see these exhaustion patterns off the highs. And from the high at 48, we did pull back here to just over 10 points. And remember, like I say often here, we could just have this type of small 10-point correction from this indication, and then they continue to push. Because if we do look back to the previous swing low here, this previous swing low up to this current swing low, we do have a nice bullish divergence forming here off of that low. So if I go ahead, I can mark that. And then on the 60-minute, I'm just curious to see from that previous swing low, we don't have an agreement. So we do see that on the 60-minute. We'll have to kind of watch here on some of the intermediate time frames. So let me just wrap things up. Ultra high time frames look very strong. No signs of exhaustion. Pretty much the same thing here on our weekly. Our daily also looks very strong. No signs of exhaustion unless the current daily bar, which has all day today to develop, does close with a lower RVI number. We would then have it. Our 4-hour has a bearish indication off the all-time high. Our 60-minute agrees with the 4-hour, but we also do have a nice bullish indication on that little bit more than 10-point pullback after that bearish indication. So that's our high time frames there. Some decent indications as we dial down to the shorter time frames of some bearishness off of the overnight high, but then we start to get some bullish indications on that pullback, on the low of that pullback. So we're going to have to kind of watch that. Let's jump to our 30-minute. And the 30-minute also had a pretty decent bullish indication in the local area. You can also kind of extrapolate a little bit here and go back to the previous major swing low in comparison to this one. And you can see that overall price has kind of sloped up, but the indicator has slowly been sloping lower here. So overall, we have a nice local divergence there. And then from the previous swing low, another pretty decent divergence. So because we are in a bullish push here, we do have a lot of indications of some bullishness off of this low, we're going to want to watch this level here, because if this holds, then that is telling us we should be going to test 48 and push higher here. So that low that we're looking at is at 36.75. I'm going to go ahead and mark this on my chart as kind of like a line in the sand here. I'll even go ahead and just make it kind of a greenish color. Maybe not the same color as our previous daily low, but some type of greenish color so that we know that that's the level we're going to want to stay above in order for all of the bullish indications off the overnight low to hold. So we also, I think, have the same indication here on our 10-minute. So on the 10-minute, it basically, the 10 and the 30 agree with what the hourly is saying. So we have a lot of agreement. That's 3 time frames all agreeing on a bearish indication off the all-time high, and then some bullish indications off of the overnight low here after we pull back from the all-time high in the overnight session. So there's that 36.75, and just confirm here, 36.75, 36.75. I don't know why it was not lining up here with the low. Okay. So we got that in there. So most of our time frames are agreeing that there's a bearish signal off the overnight high and a bullish signal off the overnight low. And that's basically going to be our parameters, our conditions this morning. We need to hold above the overnight low in order for those signals to hold for us to push and test the all-time high. And if we can't get through the all-time high, we do have a pretty good number of time frames giving us some bearishness there, so we could see lower. So it's pretty straightforward this morning. We don't necessarily have a strong picture on direction. Remember on Friday, I'm trying to remember now, it's been like 4 or 5 days since we were here. Yeah, I think on Friday we had a preponderance of bullish indications. So although the open was very, very slow and sideways, and we basically ended the room early that morning, the market did do what we kind of expected. So if you go back to the pre-market analysis on Friday and you go back to the recaps that I write up every morning after our session, we did expect higher. It just took a little bit of time and then finally broke higher and got this kind of, I don't know, like 20-point push, very slow grind higher here into the close before the holiday weekend. This morning, we don't have a preponderance like we did back on Friday giving us. So we basically have two scenarios that we're going to have to kind of watch and see and react to. So that's what we have for this morning.